K2, also known as the Savage Mountain, is the second highest mountain in the world. It straddles the border between China and Pakistan and the Karakoram Range. The routes up K2 are often called technically challenging, but that's an understatement when compared to other mountains. The routes themselves are miniature testaments to the sheer awesomeness that is the entire technical prowess of K2. The mountain itself is one enormous technical monster. Compared to K2, Everest is literally a trek to the summit. K2 is extremely steep and difficult to climb, with the highest fatality rate recorded. Of the 5 highest mountains in the world, K2 is the deadliest. Approximately 1 person dies on the mountain for every 4 who reach the summit. In 1986, 1995, and 2008, there were tragedies with heavy losses. There are many routes on K2. One of them is the Magic Line, a dangerous route along K2's south-southwest ridge that climbers regarded as the most difficult challenge of the 80s. Reinhold Messner named it the Magic Line in 1979. The first attempts at this incredibly difficult route were made in the summer of 1979. There were 6 mountaineers who wanted to climb K2. In addition to Michael Dasher and Reinhold Messner, an Austrian, a South Tyrolean, and 2 Italians, including the young Renato Casarotto, a technically experienced climber. They had big plans and wanted to reach the summit via that route. Nobody had done that yet. In fact, only 3 groups were successful on the mountain in 1954, 1977, and 1978. Messner had previously explained that the route is fantastically structured and worth 3 months of his life. It was 3,000 meters of altitude from the glacier to the summit. When he studied the route through telescope on site, which he previously only knew from maps and photos, he recognized the pitfalls. Not feasible, he decided. He never set foot on the route, deeming it far too difficult and dangerous. The group argued. Casarotto wanted the Magic Line, but Messner made a decision of abandoning the idea and instead climbed the normal route via the Abruzzi Spur. They did so and reached the summit of K2 on July 12, 1979. At the time, it was only the 4th ascent of K2. Messner's choice wasn't popular with the entire team. Casarotto, extremely eager to climb the Magic Line, took Messner's decision badly. He believed that Messner had been scared and could not forgive him for not even attempting the route. That same summer, a French team under the leadership of Bernard Millet attempted the mountain via the Magic Line. They managed to reach it around 8,350 meters, but bad weather and early arrival of winter ended their attempt further on the mountain. In 1986, there were a remarkable number of major K2 projects on the go. The Magic Line was still opened. Sadly, it was the deadliest year in K2's history. 13 climbers died on the mountain. 27 mountaineers summited K2 and 3 new routes were opened, all with a high level of commitment. 9 expeditions based themselves on the south side of K2. 4 of these intended to climb the Magic Line: an American group, an Italian team, a solo Italian climber, and a Polish-Slovakian group. The Americans and Italians set camp 3 at 6,800 meters and then, except for 2 Americans, retreated to base camp. After setting up Camp 3, the Italian team switched their focus to Broad Peak, with plans to return to K2 later. On June 21, shortly after American John Smolich and Alan Pennington left Camp 1 for Camp 2, a boulder fell from the ridge above them, causing an avalanche that killed both climbers. Understandably, the remaining Americans aborted their expedition. Hearing of the deaths, the Italian team changed their route and instead climbed the Abruzzi Spur. Renato Casarotto was so obsessed with the magic line that he came back to K2 in 1986, this time with his wife Goretta. He wanted to solo the long, unclimbed south-southwest ridge with a slight deviation to the right in the upper part. He maintained radio contact with his wife, who had remained at base camp. His first attempt ended at 8,200 meters on 23 June. A second attempt reached a similar altitude on 5 July. Despite those failed attempts, he tried for the third time, and by mid-July he reached a little higher, about 8,300 meters, but due to bad weather, he gave up the climb. On 16 July, he descended the whole length of the ridge and made it to the bottom of the Philippi Glacier, just an hour away from the base camp. Climbers at base camp watched his descent throughout the day. When he reached the glacier, Kurt Dimberger watched him through binoculars. A while later, he disappeared. While crossing a snow bridge considered to be safe, over which all expedition has passed without problem, ruptured and Casarotto fell into a 40-meter deep crevasse. Despite suffering severe injuries, he managed to get his radio out of his rucksack and called his wife, who was at base camp and had been told by Dimberger to turn the radio on. He whispered, "Goretta, I am dying in a crevasse near base camp." A search and rescue party was immediately organized by members of the Italian and international expeditions, including both their doctors. They rushed to the scene of the accident as fast as they can. A climber was lowered into the crevasse that widened downwards. Casarotto and the rescuer were then pulled upward by the rest of the team. He lost consciousness shortly after falling out of the crevasse. Despite best possible efforts by the doctors, he died soon afterwards of internal injuries. Following the wishes of his wife, his body was placed back to rest in the same crevasse. That was a great loss for Italian mountaineering and a shocking blow to Goretta Casarotto, who had always accompanied him in faraway expedition and given him priceless moral and practical support on all his solo climbs. Casarotto was one of the foremost Italian mountaineers of the 1970s and 1980s. He was famous for his solo winter ascents in the Dolomites and on Mont Blanc, as well as for opening new routes on Patagonia, Peru, and the Karakoram range of Pakistan. His body was found by Kazakh mountaineers in 2003. It had been transported downstream by the movement of the glacier. They gave it a final burial at the Gilki Memorial. By that summer, 3 members of a strong Polish Slovakian team led by Janusz Meyer finally completed the ascent of the Magic Line. On August 3, 1986, Wojciech Rose, Przemysław Pisarski, and Peter Barshis reached the summit. They decided to descend by the Abruzzi route. 5.5 hours later, at 8,100 meters, While rappelling down the bottleneck in the dark, Ross fell to his death. Meyer's team dedicated the success to the memory of Pennington, Smollett, Casarotto, and Ross. Work of the American team on the lower half of the route was instrumental in the success of the Polish-Slovakian team. And so they shared their feeling of victory on what Renato Casarotto had referred to as the most typical route in all the Himalaya and Karakoram. For his part, Meyer also mentioned that they were able to use ropes set by the Americans and the Italians. The collective efforts of a procession of teams had finally helped solve the most difficult route of the era. Since the first ascent, there has only been one repeat of the magic line. In 2004, Catalan climber Jordi Coromines summited K2 solo at midnight. Two members of his team turned back and Coromines climbed alone in the dark from 8,300 meters without bottled oxygen. It was a great achievement for the Catalan climbers. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like and comment below. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel for more videos to come.